Hi, my name is Evan.
My name is Marco.
My name is Josh.
My name is Kalai.
Today we will be going over Chapter 4 of the book called How Economics Explains the World by Lay. Our core idea of this chapter is the interlocking revolution during the Industrial Revolution. For thousands of years, life barely changed. People ate about the same, lived about the same, and even earned about the same as their ancestors on the African savanna. But then, a few centuries ago, everything shifted. The Industrial Revolution brought new machines, booming trade, and new ideas about how the markets and its society work. And suddenly, people's lives improved, longer lives, higher incomes, as well as even more choices. This transformation, however, did not happen overnight. It began with small changes in farming, technology, and trade that slowly built momentum. As cities grew and factories spread, work, time, and daily routines were completely reorganized. Innovation spread faster than ever before, and new economic ideas encouraged competition, specialization, and innovation. Together, these changes created a world very different from anything humans had experienced before. But how did a few inventions and smart thinkers transform the world?
So, in the sweep of human history, rising living standards are actually pretty recent. Before the Industrial Revolution, most economic growth simply meant an increase in population, not an improvement in how people lived. So, in Japan, for example, the average daily income in 1000 AD was only $2.80. But by the 1700s, it had risen only slightly to $2.90. Despite centuries passing, everyday life remained largely unchanged. Compared to their ancestors, people weren't taller, did not live longer, and were not healthier. Most families lived close to subsistence, and where nearly all income was spent just to survive. Poverty was the norm, while comfort and security were limited to only a small group. And because productivity grew so slowly and increase in wealth was quickly absorbed by population growth, and new land or tools became temporarily um, improving on conditions, but these gains rarely lasted. Disease, famine, and poor sanitation kept life expectancy low, and economic opportunities were limited. This long period makes the Industrial Revolution stand out as like a dramatic break from the past. And for the first time, economic growth began to raise living standards for large portions of the population, which also made a turning point in human history where growth meant better lives, just not just more people. And so to elaborate on that, the Industrial Revolution was not a single event or moment, but a powerful combination of forces coming together at the right time. New technologies such as steam engines, mechanized looms, and improved transport dramatically increased how much workers could produce. So as these factories replaced like cottage industries, the work shifted from homes and farms to cities, which the urbanization and created entirely new kinds of jobs. Trade expanded along these changes. There was better ships, canals, and later railways that connected markets, allowing goods to be produced on a larger scale and sold far beyond like the local communities. This integration of markets encouraged specialization, innovation, and competition, which further boosted productivity and lowered prices. However, just as important were the economic institutions and ideas that supported growth. Secure property rights, enforceable contracts, and financial systems gave people the confidence to invest, invent, and take risk. Thinkers like Adam Smith helped shape policies that emphasize markets, incentives, and efficiency, allowing the gains from new technology to spread throughout society. While the early stages of the Industrial Revolution were harsh for many workers, over time it affected um, the transformation of economics in society, and rising productivity translated into higher wages, better access to goods, improved health, and longer life expectancy. For the first time in human history, economic growth became sustained rather than temporary, enabling ordinary people, not just elites, to enjoy steady, improving life standards and greater control over their lives. And to show this, we have a first visual. It is a graph of the Industrial Revolution and how it's tied back into econ. Let's show that for a little bit. So we got about roughly 10 dates on there. And it starts with talking about the beginning of the gadgets being built in 1700, which included like the steam engine, blast furnaces, and the movement of using coke instead of charcoal. And it kind of ends with the end of the French Revolution, 1815.
A big part of the Industrial Revolution was technology. Machines like the spinning jenny allowed one worker to spin many threads at the same time, which made cotton production much faster than before. Steam engines also became very important because they provided power for factories, trains, and ships, instead of just relying on people, animals, or water. Iron production also improved because new furnaces and better methods made iron stronger and cheaper to even produce. These inventions were called general purpose technologies because they could be used in many different industries. However, they did not increase productivity right away. Factories had to change how they were built, and workers had to learn new skills to use the machines. Business owners also needed time and money to buy and install the new technology. Because of this, it often took many years before these inventions made a big difference. The same thing happened later with electric motors and computers, which also took time to change the way people worked. And in the end, these technologies helped shape modern industry and everyday life. And for our second visual diagram, um, there is, can you see it? I have a box with the spinning jenny that's pointing to the factory, and also the steam engines that's pointing to the factories, which all lead to increased productivity, which then equals out to more goods equal lower costs.
New farming tools, machines, and methods led to farming becoming more efficient. Fewer workers were needed to produce more food, and this freed many people to leave the countryside and move to towns and cities in search of new jobs. This movement of people led to rapid urbanization, and by 1750, about one quarter of England's population was living in cities. Cities became centers of economic activity where trade expanded and businesses could grow more easily. Banks and other financial institutions developed to support commerce and investment. Cities also made it easier for people to meet, exchange ideas, and share knowledge. Because many people lived and worked closely together, new inventions and innovations spread quickly. This created a commercial revolution that encouraged creativity and economic growth, much like modern technology hubs that we have nowadays, where new ideas develop and spread rapidly.
An example using modern data: in 1800 the UK's GDP per capita was about $1,000 in today's dollars. By 1900 it had grown to around $4,000, and that's about fourfold increase in a century, showing how technological and commercial changes translated into higher incomes. And you can also look at the World Bank's historical GDP data, or FRED, for trends in industrialization and urbanization rates to visualize this growth. This rise was driven by industrialization, including the spread of factory production, railways, and improved energy use. Urbanizi- Urbanization accelerated as people moved from rural areas to cities for work, increasing productivity, but also creating new social challenges over time. These long-term growth patterns helped lay the foundation for modern living standards and economic structures. But a common misconception many people think about the Industrial Revolution is that it caused mass unemployment because of how machines replace workers, and this was called the lump of labor fallacy, the idea that there's only a fixed amount of work. But in reality, while some jobs change, new industries and technologies created more jobs overall. For example, in Britain, jobs in the economy increased by more than 10% between 1811 and 1821, despite the spread of machines. However, not everyone supported the changes of the Industrial Revolution. In 1811, some textile workers, later called the Luddites, were angry that the new machines were taking their jobs away from them, and they secretly warned factory owners that they would destroy the machines if they kept using them. Many workers joined this movement, and a few people actually, including poet Lord Byron, supporting the Luddites, saying workers were suffering. However, the British government strongly opposed them, making machine breaking a serious crime and sending soldiers to stop them. Many Luddites were arrested or sent away as punishment for their actions.
Economic ideas also mattered. Adam Smith's Wealth of Nations explained how specialization and self interest benefit society. De Ricardo's comparative advantage theory showed why trade benefits even less productive countries. Concepts like opportunity cost and diminishing marginal utility helped people make smarter choices about work, money, and resources. These ideas guided policies that supported trade, innovation, and growth. Economic ideas also played an important role in shaping the modern economy. Um, in The Wealth of Nations, Adam Smith explained how specialization and the pursuit of self interest could benefit society as a whole by increasing productivity and efficiency. David Ricardo later developed the theory of comparative advantage, showing that trade can benefit all countries, even those that are less productive, when each focuses on what it does best. Other key concepts, such as opportunity costs and diminishing marginal utility, helped people better understand how to make choices about work, spending, and the use of limited resources. Together, these economic ideas influence government policies and business decisions that encourage free trade, innovation, and long term economic growth.
The Industrial Revolution greatly changed everyday life and reshaped society in lasting ways. As new machines and factory systems increased population, many people began to live longer, earn higher wages, and experience gradual improvements in health and living standards. Although early industrial cities were crowded and unhealthy, over time, better sanitation, improved housing, and medical advances helped reduce disease and increase life expectancy. Cities grew rapidly as people moved from rural areas to find factory work, and markets expanded as goods could be produced faster and more cheaply. Work became more structured, with fixed schedules replacing the flexible pace of farm labor, changing how people organize their daily lives. New inventions also transformed culture and personal habits. Clocks became essential for keeping time in factories, reinforcing punctuality and discipline, while mirrors, another invention, became more common, shaping how individuals saw themselves and their appearances. Transportation improvements such as canals and railroads made it easier for people to move around and to also trade products, strengthening regional and global connections. Global trade increased dramatically, spreading goods like cotton, tea, chocolate, glass, and manufactured products across continents. As free market and competition replaced older feudal systems, the Industrial Revolution demonstrated how technological innovation and economic change could drive long term growth and gradually improve society. And for our last diagram, I'm going to be going over several things in the Industrial Revolution and their cause and effects. So, for the first one, it's new machines, and the effect of that is faster productions. And then secondly, we have factories, and the effect is that there's organized mass production. And then third, our cities, and the effect of that is that there's a faster spread of ideas and trades. And then the other one is economic ideas. And the effect of this is that there is more better use of resources. And then trade allows for more goods and wealth to be distributed around the world. And then institutions allows for stability of growth. And all of these combined led to higher living standards back during the revolution.
To summarize what we took away from this chapter, we'll start with technology drives growth, but it takes time for society to like fully benefit. And policies should support innovation and help workers adapt to these new situations. Secondly, institutions matter. We need a stable government, property rights, and free markets to create an environment for long-term prosperity. And then lastly, trade and ideas are powerful. So with open trade and knowledge, we can raise the living standards globally. And then to sum it up, the Industrial Revolution teaches us that growth isn't always automatic. People, policies, and ideas all need to work together. If we want rising living standards today, we need to keep investing in technology, strong institutions, and education. Thank you.